Alrighty, what is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global here, back with another one. And in this one, no, we're not talking about free agency, although some free agency videos are still to come. I got a couple free agents I still like for the Patriots on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So you guys can expect those videos to drop within the next week for sure, potentially even in the next couple of days. So keep a lookout for those. But today we're going to be hitting on the draft a little bit because the New England Patriots have met with one of the top corners of the 2023 draft. Now, I'm making a video on this. They obviously meet with a lot of guys, but this is the second meeting that the Patriots have had with cornerback Emmanuel Forbes. And guys, Emmanuel Forbes is probably the first prospect in this draft that I truly fell in love with. He was my first favorite overall cornerback for the Patriots. So I have a soft spot for this guy for sure. And the Patriots meeting with him twice, their most recent visit being a top 30 visit, they clearly do have interest with Emmanuel Forbes. So we're going to talk about him today, talk about what he brings. And this could be a legitimate pick for the Patriots within the first two rounds. Now, before we hop into today's video, though, of course, if you're not a Patreon member, become a Patreon member, guys. Join the Patreon family with me and all the other Patreon members. All of us constantly talking about the Patriots in the Discord chat. If you want to be added to the Discord chat, all you do is become a Patreon member. Only $10 a month, guys. That's not even a coffee a day. That's not even a coffee every other day, guys. Become a Patreon member. Best way to support the channel. You get benefits from it. You can join me live on the channel to talk about your opinions on the Patriots and some of the news we talk about during my live streams. You can come cement yourself forever with on the Patriots Global channel. And of course, like I said, get some exclusive content and become a part of our Discord chat. But let's hop into today's video about Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Forbes, baby. Emmanuel freaking Forbes, coming from Mississippi. He also grew up there, so he's very familiar within the Mississippi state. Grew up there. It's where he went to college. But this is the ball hawk. This is your Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, just absolute ball hawk. And to kind of put it in a little bit more into perspective, maybe not so much as Stephon Gilmore's, but if we're going to talk about league-wide, this is your like Trayvon Diggs, this is your Xavier Howard, your J.C. Jackson. This guy has a knack for making plays and finding the football. Now, the reason why I haven't talked so much about Emmanuel Forbes is that I actually thought he was smaller than he was, and I thought he was just going to be a slot cornerback in the league. While I do love his playmaking ability, we have slot guys. We re-signed John Jones. We obviously have Marcus Jones. We don't need another slot cornerback, which is why I kind of drifted from Emmanuel Forbes as of late. But, you know, after hearing today that they met with him for the second time, again, today being a top 30 visit, I said, what am I not seeing that they really love about Emmanuel Forbes? Because I love Forbes, but there's got to be something that they're willing to draft another slot guy. And I looked, and he's 6'1". So I don't know what I was thinking that this was a slot guy. This is your perimeter corner. Now, of course, he's not like 6'3" or anything like that, but he comes and he is immediately one of your starting outside cornerbacks. Jalen Mills is probably going to switch to safety. I believe Jalen Mills is 6'1". So Emmanuel Forbes would be immediately plugged in as your tallest cornerback. And I think the reason that I thought Emmanuel Forbes was smaller than he is because of his weight. He's a small cornerback in terms of his frame and in terms of his build. Great height with 6'1". He'll be able to go up against some of these taller receivers, especially with his jump ability. He killed it at the combine, but he weighs only 166 pounds. That's the problem with Emmanuel Forbes, is that he looks smaller on the field than he actually is because of that weight. I think it'll drop his stock a little bit, but at the end of the day, you can gain weight, and it's not all that hard. It's something that they'll get him in the weight room, they'll get him under a diet plan, and within a year, going into his sophomore year. I'm sure that won't be an issue at all. You can't teach height, and he obviously brings height, and he has the ball skills. So, speaking in terms of where do I think Emmanuel Forbes is going to go in the draft? Now, currently he's listed as a second round pick. He has an average draft projection of going around 39th overall. PFF has him as their 36th best prospect. This is a guy that if you do mock drafts, you can usually get in the second round. Now and then he falls to the third round, but I think that in reality of things, Emmanuel Forbes will not fall to the third. In fact, I could see this being a situation where a team actually views him so high that they take him at the back end of the first round. Think about Eric Stokes a couple of years ago. Eric Stokes was a guy I loved for the Patriots as a second round pick. He didn't make it to the second round. He went back end of the first round because the Packers drafted him. And that's exactly a situation I could see with Emmanuel Forbes, a guy who has the height, not necessarily the frame, but again, you can work on it, and just has the intangibles to be a number one corner and a ball hawking corner, especially with his versatility, which I will get into because one of the things I love most about him, he can play in several different schemes for a multitude of different teams. So I think that's something that a lot of teams will like, which I think is going to raise his draft stock. So again, it would not surprise me if Emmanuel Forbes does get taken the back end of the first, but he is still a second round projection. You have to look at the other cornerbacks that are currently projected to go higher than him. You obviously have Witherspoon, you have Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter. All three of those guys should go before Emmanuel Forbes. Point blank. Better raw overall shutdown number one cornerback talent compared to Emmanuel Forbes. But where I think it gets interesting is where will teams value Emmanuel Forbes compared to somebody like Deonte Banks? And when we talk about guys like Witherspoon and Gonzalez and Joey Porter and Banks and Forbes, if the Patriots get any of those five guys, you have your number one cornerback, and I'm absolutely stoked. But you could make a case that all of those guys should go in the first. Now, will all of those guys go in the first? I doubt it, but I could see four of these guys easily going in the first round. And again, it all depends on a team's preference. And that is where, someone like Emmanuel Forbes, again, is going to be the difference between back end of a first round and then beginning of the second. Either way, I think if the Patriots do not take Emmanuel Forbes in the first round, they're not getting him. Unless they trade up high into the second round, if he falls there, if they trade up high into the second round and he does fall, then okay, maybe we're talking about like a Christian Barmore move up type of the thing, but you have to move up high into the second round to get this guy, because I guarantee you, he drops to the second, there are teams that will be picking at him, and he can go like that once he reaches the second. So I think if the Patriots really like him that much and they truly want to land him, then they're going to have to either take him at 14, which I don't like. Again, you should have one of these other cornerbacks there. You should have a pick between Witherspoon, Joey Porter, and Christian Gonzalez. Between one of those three guys, the Patriots should be able to have one of those options, if not two, at the 14th overall pick. And you probably would want to take one of those guys over Forbes. But if the Patriots say, you know what, no, like we want Emmanuel Forbes, what they could do is they could trade down in the draft, pick up an extra second or third round pick, and then take Forbes. What I wouldn't do is trade super late into the first round, because again, I do see a world in which he gets taken back end of the first. If I was the Patriots, I would trade down anywhere from the 18th overall pick, probably to the 22nd to 23rd overall pick. And I think that's a sweet spot that you can go and grab Emmanuel Forbes there. You get the guy you want, but you also are compiling some extra draft picks and are not, kind of reaching at that 14th overall pick. So we talked about that build. We talked about the height that Emmanuel Forbes brings. Like I said, very thin guy overall. But again, at 6'1", you're getting a guy who can bring height, but you're also getting a guy with speed. You can't make this up. How you cannot love Emmanuel Forbes blows my mind. This is easily one of my favorite prospects. 6'1", like I mentioned, brings the height, and he ran a 4.35 40-yard dash. Not only can he keep up with some of the taller receivers in the NFL, but he can keep up speed-wise with other corners in the NFL. This is a guy in really all phases that can get the job done. Now, I am scared about his ability to go up against some of these bigger receivers, guys like AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, just because of how thin his frame is. But again, something that can be worked on. There are a couple things that are of concern. That's probably one of my bigger ones. Something that I said, though, easily can be coached out. And in this case, easily something that can be ironed out. Just get him on a diet. Like I mentioned, he is a ball hawk at the end of the day. He finds the ball. He's a very good contested catch defensive back. He's a guy who's going to get you turnovers. He's a guy who's going to give Mac Jones and our offense more opportunities to put points up on the board. He's a very versatile cornerback also. I'm going to get exactly into where he played most throughout Mississippi's defense. But he played a lot of zone coverage in Mississippi scheme, but he did excel in press man coverage when given the opportunity. He also has a very big willingness to play the run. Again, look at all of these factors. Size to play as an outside perimeter corner, the speed at 4.3 to keep up with receivers, willing to play the run, mainly played in his own scheme, but did showcase himself very well in playing press man. Tell me that does not sound like a perfect Bill Belichick cornerback that that he would love to just cook up and form into the perfect Patriots cornerback. Like, this is your next CB1 if the Patriots can get him. Like I said, though, overall, that biggest weakness for him is going to be not a lot of muscle, not a lot to him. He gets pushed around at times from bigger receivers. That's my biggest concern. But when we look at where he played the majority of snaps as a corner. He played 661 snaps at outside corner this past year. He played 8 at slot, 2 on D-line. He played 55 in the box and 3 deep. So again, mainly your outside corner, but he does show some versatility. He put up an overall coverage grade of 89.3 this past year with a run defensive grade of 79.7. Again, for a guy who's only 166 pounds, it surprises me just how good he is in defending the run, and only allowed a completion percentage of 53.4%. Now, this past year, he put up 6 interceptions. 6 interceptions and 3 touchdowns. This dude is not just a pick machine. This dude is a pick 6 machine. He's going to put points up on the board. Imagine Emmanuel Forbes with Kyle Duggar and Jack Jones. You can make a real case that the Patriots defense next year with Emmanuel Forbes will put up more touchdowns than the Patriots offense. That's a real genuine case that you can make there. And this is coming off from a 2022 Patriots defense that ranked first in points. They very well and very easily with Emmanuel Forbes could be number 1 by the end of the 2023 season yet again. But allowed a pass rating of 44.7 this past year. Like I said, 6 interceptions, 3 touchdowns. He had 3 interceptions in 2021, 5 interceptions in 2020. This dude is an absolute machine. A couple of things that do worry me about Emmanuel Forbes. I'm hyping him up a lot, but there are a couple things that are still worrisome. His eyes sometimes don't track. And if you see me look down, I have some notes here. His eyes don't track very well. And at times it doesn't bail him out. It gets him in trouble. Again, like I said before, a lot of my issues just come down to the fact that there's not a lot of mass to him. Every real concern I have here, other than his eyes, come back to the fact that he's an issue with not having enough to him, and it's a concern in the run game. But he still puts up good numbers overall, and he's a sure tackler. And the fact that he's only allowed a completion percentage of 20% in man coverage, although mainly being a zone cornerback with Mississippi, I think says a lot to what he could do in the Patriots system that wants to move to more press man coverage. They just didn't have the cornerbacks to be able to do so this past year. But that 20% completion rate in man coverage was actually the lowest in FBS cornerbacks. So the New England Patriots have a second visit with Emmanuel Forbes. This very well could be a guy that they're looking into to be maybe their first pick in the first round, or maybe their second pick and they trade up in the second round. But this is a guy they're doing their due diligence on, and I think would be an excellent move for the Patriots to bring along from height to speed to man coverage ability to a turnover machine. This guy brings it all. But what are your guys' thoughts on Emmanuel Forbes? Someone you want or someone you pass on? Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to leave a big like on this video and subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. I appreciate you guys for watching like always, and never forget,